Hi, welcome to Attainable Green. I'm Jess, and today I'm going to do an update on my orchid collection. I'm going to cover what happened this past spring and hopefully what's going to go on in the summer season. Now, a lot of things have been going on since my last update, not only in my personal life, but also in my plants. From my last update, I mentioned that my family and I have been trying to adjust to our new normal back at home. Now, this happened right at the beginning of the stay-at-home orders, and in our current situation, we are coming back from another hospital stay and a 2-week recovery period. So once again, we are trying to adjust to our new normal, and with the pandemic going on, we are definitely not going outside and really trying to minimize any outside contact we have. Now, we want to reduce the risk of any additional infections for my husband, so I am definitely reducing any unnecessary trips. Right now, it's essentials only, and my only non-essential trip was to Andy's orchids. So it looks like we're going to be staying at home and being hermits, basically, for the next couple of months until this blows over. As for my collection, there is a lot of growth and a lot of exciting things coming on. But for now, I'm just going to stick to blooms and a couple of updates and things I've learned. So first, I want to share with you my Taisuco Jasper. Now, this plant is a reblooming from last year, and it finished its first flush of blooms, and now it's extending its spike, and it's growing 1 flower, and it's growing an additional 4 buds. So it is pretty exciting that it is lasting about 3 months now, and with this new flush of blooms, it'll probably last another month or more. Now, the next phal that I have is tetraspis. This phal is known for its random patterning on the petals and sepals. So as you can see, some of the flowers have a lot of red on the petals and sepals and a little bit of white, and others are more white than red. And I think that random patterning is what makes this plant so interesting, and it's always a different and unique look each time. This plant is in its second flush of blooms. So in early April, it had about 5 flowers, and this time around, it looks like we're going to have about 8 flowers. I did have to stake up the plant to give a better presentation of the flowers and to prevent the spikes from overlapping each other too much. My Phalaenopsis corningiana is starting to fade. I think from my species video, it's probably been about 3 weeks in between, and so the flowers look a little bit different. It starts off as this really vivid red barring on a white background, and now as it's starting to fade, the colors are turning a little bit more orangey. So there is a little bit of color change to these plants, but I don't mind too much. Also, the fragrance has come through a little bit, but to me, it kind of smells like melted plastic and grass, or a mix thereof. And for some reason, I'm not quite getting that sweet minty grape fragrance, but I'm hoping that as the season progresses, maybe the fragrance will change and give it a little bit better, pleasant scent. My bellina variety Murtoniana is in bloom, and I love this plant. It is really beautiful and really striking. It is the wild or jungle strain version of the bellina, so it has a more reflexed flower presentation, and the coloration of the petals and sepals has more of that purple bleeding throughout that yellow background. So currently it has 1 bloom and it has 2 buds in progress on 2 different spikes. So I'm thinking that as the first bud will fade, then the other 2 will come into flower. These are kind of sequential bloomers, so it will just continue blooming throughout the summer season. I also like the fragrance of this. It's kind of fruity and sweet and a little bit hard to describe. Some people consider it to smell like Fruit Loops, but I think it's a little bit sweeter than that. This is my first season with summer blooming phals, and I am loving it. I think I will probably get more in the future, but for now, this is quite the display, and I am definitely enjoying all of the flowers and the beautiful scents. So next, my Miltoniopsis. and this year has just been great for Miltoniopsis for me. I was able to rebloom 2 of them, and I purchased a new Miltoniopsis. So if you've seen my previous videos, you've probably seen these plants before, but for now I'm just going to show the ones that are currently in bloom. So the first one is the Miltoniopsis Breathless Hilo Galaxy. Now this one is very full, flat, and it has a wonderful scent. The color and the patterning is very striking and very different from other Miltoniopsis that I have found, and so I just really had to pick this one up. The next one is the Miltoniopsis Ambre's Charm Cream Puff. Now, after looking at this plant more closely, I think it is misidentified. I think this is Arthur Cobbledick, primarily because on the lip there's a little bit of pink blushing on it, and that is characteristic of the Arthur Cobbledick, but not present in the Ambre's Charm. So last year, this plant was in bloom around April, and this year it rebloomed closer to June. And I noticed that with all the heat waves and warm weather that we've been having, the flowers on this plant is significantly smaller than it was last year. It's about 2.5 inches in length, and also the blushing effect is more prominent. And I think that's because as the temperature increases, that blushing really shows through. Now this plant is kind of a pale yellow type Miltoniopsis, and I also noticed that as it ages, the yellow color really deepens and intensifies. So although this plant is misidentified, I still really like it. This year has been great for my recovering NOID phals, and 2 of them are in spike and they have finally flowered. So they are just the classic white Phalaenopsis that you can find in grocery stores and in a lot of places. So they're not like super special, but to me they signify a huge success for me, because when I first started out and I made so many mistakes with them and so many other phals have died, but these ones have pulled through, they've recovered, and now they're in bloom. So the next plant I'm going to talk about is my Dendrobium tobaense variety giganteum. Now this plant has been really easy for me to grow, really easy to bloom, and I'm just enjoying the flowers. Right now it has 3 blooms open, and another 3 will be opening fairly soon. For the next set of blooms, I'm going to try to do some propagation with this plant. I want to self it and see if we can get some seeds and be able to get it into a flask and hopefully grow them. So the next plant is a plant that I recently purchased, and when I got it, it was in a very short spike, and it was able just to grow an extended spike and look so lovely. Now this is my first Phragmipedium. It is the Phragmipedium Taras, which is a cross between Boserianum and Persei. I am definitely liking it, and it's very compact, and as you can see, there is a second bud just popping out, and there's a small one in progress. This is a sequential bloomer, so I know that we'll be continuing to have several blooms for over a period of several months. And the last flower in bloom is the Vandachostylis lilac blossom. Now this plant is a Rainfall and Ascocentrum hybrid. I got this plant as a substitute for the Ascocentrum ampicillum. It was out of stock, so instead they sent me this plant, and I'm not complaining. I really love the vivid, dark purple coloration of this plant, and it's something that I didn't even think I wanted or knew existed. So I am definitely pleasantly surprised by this plant, and I love it. This plant came in bloom, so I was just admiring the spike and the flowers and just enjoying it for as long as it lasted. After the flowers faded, I cut off the spike and tried to repot it in a little bit of media, because the net pot and no media just wasn't working for me. I just could not keep it hydrated enough. Afterwards, I just set it back in its location outdoors, and unfortunately got a little bit of sunburn, so I'm still trying to figure out what are the best light levels for this plant. Those were the blooms for the spring season, and I'm definitely looking forward to what summer has in store. As we're going into the summer season, I am definitely keeping an eye on watering and making sure that I have the right shading for all of my plants. We've been having crazy heat waves this spring, and it's making my plants a little bit confused, and some of my plants have got a little bit sunburned because of the intense heat and light that it's been getting. My Neostylus neusneri got the worst of it, but I'm hoping that it'll recover. So summer is all about growth for a lot of my plants, and it is really great to see. I put all my cattleyas outdoors on the patio, and I noticed that the increased sunlight is doing wonders for them. A lot of the new growth are growing straighter, stronger, and healthier than they have before, and a lot of the anthocyanins and other colorations are starting to kick in. My biggest issue this spring season has been dealing with slugs and snails. I haven't had to deal with too many pests aside from thrips on my seedlings and maybe a mealy bug problem on a plant or two. But really the biggest pest has been slug and snails, and they've been chewing on roots, shredding leaves, and just causing a lot of problems. But as the weather is warming up and the ground is starting to dry off, I think the slug and snail problem is decreasing. So that is what's going on with my orchid collection this past spring, and hopefully summer will be looking great as well. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, Attainable Green, for all the latest updates. And hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Bye!